So sticking with our final scheduled question here, or actually it's a comment, I assume directed at Dr. Schladlow. The comment is, I assume it's known that there are Asian clams at Reagan Beach.
Yes.
Yes, we know that. Okay, thank you for the comment.
If you see him anywhere else, you can call the hotline.
So from here, if anyone else in the audience has questions or comments, we'll just do by raising hands and address your question or comment to the appropriate person.
Yeah, my name's Gary Clark, and I'm a responsible boater in the area. I live in Sparks and come up here and use the waters cautiously. And years back, we could see obviously the problems coming of what we're all worried about here. My company, we enabled a product, and I'm not looking to sell anything here. I'm really looking to gain exposure and ask you guys how we can best approach this. But we've developed a water-based zero VOC coating that can be applied to any boat surface, outdrive, underside, trailers, what have you. And it completely resists marine life attachment, so things can't stick to it. It's very water friendly. We're using it in water towers for city waters and waterways and different things. And I'm just trying to figure out how I can best expose the community to it, that there's a responsible option to be able to apply this to your boat or any watercraft basically, whether motorized or non-motorized. So if anybody has any ideas on it, I do have some literature up here if you want to read on it, but I'm really looking to figure out how do I get this out? How do I get this out?
Thanks for that comment. Anyone else? Questions or comments?
Want to address that really quick?
Well, I address that.
I'm looking at you.
Yeah. I appreciate you standing and introducing us to that. I think it's something that I mentioned earlier about all the different little subcommittees and workers. I think that may be something that some of the folks involved in the inspection and decontamination working group could get your contact information and talk to you about that. I don't know the applicability inside engines and outdrives and all that other kind of stuff, but certainly anything that without knowing exactly what your product is, anything that is safe for the environment that also reduces the risk of attachment of invasive species would be a good thing.
We're using it in fish hatcheries to give you an idea. We're coating concrete fish hatcheries and re-inhabiting for up in Oregon, and it's completely biofriendly.
Well, good. Well, we'd like to get your contact information, and we can talk to you about whether or not that's something that could be used.
Have you tried it with garter mussel and zebra mussel yet?
Yeah, we're actually testing in Lake Mead right now. Barnacles won't stick to it in the ocean environment. That's a pretty tough character. So.
Great, good to know there's a product out there. Hopefully we don't need it so that the clog mussels aren't sticking to our boats. Ben?
Hi, my name is Ben. I'm just really concerned about chemical treatments. It's good to see that the mats are being used, but they freak me out. I've been following a couple buddies live or work at Lahontan, and I hear how it's tough for them to think about it and how they're going through it. So I'm just very sketched out about it. I think that in the long run, it's not the answer, but maybe we can use it. I just want to throw my opinion out there.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and that will be down the line another battle that we'll have to work out the toolbox.
This is for Lars. Is there a way to I know with plants there's no easy way to differentiate anything, but for the layman, is there a characteristic between the native pond weeds and native milk oils versus the invasive ones that would catch somebody's eye for reporting to have somebody come confirm?
Yeah, that's a good question. In terms of milk oil, it's a little more difficult. But the native milk oil we have is called Andean milk oil. And it's, I don't have a picture of it tonight to show you, but we can get you one. It doesn't grow as tall. It grows maybe 6 to 12 inches tall. It's bushier. And you can see side by side, you can tell. In terms of the pondweeds, it tells Korean pondweed is the wavy edge of the leaf. And if it has churion present, which it typically does, and so that's the most direct way to do it. The other thing is there's 2 or 3 other native pondweeds up here, and pondweeds are notoriously hard to tell apart. But I would say look at the leaf edge, the margin on the leaf, and look for churions, and that's your best indicator at this point.
do you think you will have, response on your, or results on your first wave of the dye testing?
Well, we're gonna go in June, so by the end of June, we'll have the first data on that first period. We want to do the dye study again in the fall because the conditions change at the lake. And there are some opportunities, notwithstanding your concerns about chemicals, that indicate sometimes it's better to use them in the spring versus the fall, or the fall versus the spring. So it's a good idea to have an idea what water movement would do at those periods of time in the season.
We do have on our website as well at townrights.org, we have some handouts and flyers about how to tell the difference between aquatic plants and also the mollusks data and. Oh, and there's some handouts in the back.
In the back here?
My name's Victor Babbitt, and I'm on the Edward County Fish and Game Commission, and also in Towel Fly Fishing Outfitters here in town. And I kind of have a concern about the fishery in the Keys, and I understand removing the warm water species. I understand the concept behind it and why we're doing it. But I also know that there's an established sport fishery in the Keys for many, many years now of the warm water species, including the back sailing lagoon, or whatever you want to call the backwater there. Number one place we send kids to go fishing since I've had my business for 17 years. It's a great place to take a kid and get into crappie and bluegill and all these different fish. With that said, knowing that it's responsible to get rid of these fish the best we can, I would just like to see that there's some kind of mitigation to that for our fisheries. We're losing fisheries, sport fisheries left and right, and there's always talk of getting rid of these sport fish and these different things, and bringing back a Lahontan cutthroat trout that I'll admit isn't my favorite sport fish to catch, but still it's a trout and it's fun to catch. But we have a lot of kids, a lot of people that like to fish, and it is definitely an established sport fishery, Lake Tahoe in general, and in the Keys itself. And I'd just like to comment that I hope that gets taken care of. And I know Kevin has spoken to me that there's a possibility you're going to put some Lahontans in there. Putting in 1,000 Lahontans compared to 1 million warm water species or whatever in there as far as numbers of fish. A lot of bass, a lot of crappie, a lot of bluegill in there, and the bullheads and other things that you catch in there. And I throw the word kids out there because kids are our future, and kids love to fish. And so I just hope that Fish and Game, or even some of this, we put aside some money to put fish back in there so we still continue to have a sport fishery.
Right. I absolutely agree with you. My position is funded by Sportfish Restoration dollars, so I'm particularly sensitive. My job is to make fishing better, and that's my goal in every other reservoir in the state. And that's, you see the kids when we're out there, we're doing electric fishing, they're on the docks and they're fishing, they're catching their little bluegill. And so kind of what our thoughts are is, one of the first things we're gonna do is we're gonna try and bring, when we spawn Enid Lake, our Lahontan cutthroat trout, we're gonna bring some brood stock up to Sawmill Pond. These should be,
Pond for the kids fishing day.
you're right, not just for the kids fishing day too, but just throughout the year when the temperatures in the pond can tolerate it. So that's kind of one of our main deals that we're going to try and do, for the kids events. And then also, I don't want to speak for Endow, but I believe they have plans to plant to replace some of the rainbow trout plantings with, again, Lahontan cutthroat trout. We're trying to go to more native species in their native ranges. I don't think any of us have any illusions that we're going to plant these fish in there and these Lahantans are going to take off and they're going to, but hopefully they'll be available to anglers. And I think once we reduce the population of the bass and the bluegill, not so much the bluegill, but especially the bass, if we start planting some of these Lahantans in the Keys, I don't know how long they're going to stick around, but hopefully it'll be long enough that people there will be able to have access on the docks, because not everybody has a boat that they can go out and troll for mackerel or kokanee or whatever. So, our hope is that we can plant some, spread those plants throughout the year, that we actually will be able to provide an angling opportunity for the people that do fish in the Keys from the docks and things like that.
It's going to take a huge, as I'm saying, and how many fish counts are out there right now with warm water species in the Keys, take a huge amount of Lahontans to even come close to replacing what that was. And for years I've had clients come in from the Keys that are staying there, and come in and get fishing stuff from me to go fish in the
Right.
Keys off their dock. And that's
Right.
one of the nice things about having, you know, a house in the Keys. They can
Yeah.
take their kids out there and fish off docks. You know, if we don't have, if we can't replace it with a bunch, then it's gonna be a difference. It's gonna make a huge difference on these people that live down in the Keys.
Right,
You know, the kids aren't gonna be able to go fish out there. The
right.
adults aren't gonna be able to go fish out there.
Well,
No
we
one
hope
is.
this, I mean, they actually will be able to fish out there. I mean, you know, if you
Fishing
look
and
at.
catching are two different
Right,
things.
well, they will be able to catch fish out there. I mean, you know, the catching of a Lahontan trout and a largemouth bass is different. I mean, bass are
Right.
a top-notch predator, and they are, you know, they're much more voracious than a Lahontan is.
Sure.
There's no doubt about that, but, you know, they also don't belong in this environment. So, you know, we're reserving some fish. You know, also, one of the issues that we have with Lahantans is, you know, they're not a domesticated trout. They haven't spent 80 years in a hatchery, being tweaked and crossbred and to survive in a hatchery environment. These are still wild fish that we take eggs from Heenan Lake,
Mhm.
and we raise them up in our hatcheries. So right now, we're moving towards, in some of these basins, native fishes in their native ranges. So our hatcheries are still gearing up. We don't have a lot of Lahantans that we can put everywhere. Right now, the only hatchery, or we have some American River Hatchery. This year was our first year of growing in there. But traditionally, they were in Hot Creek Hatchery. Hot Creek Hatchery has mud snails. You can't put those fish in anywhere pretty much. So we're trying them in some of our other hatcheries. Some places it'll work, some places it won't, just due to water conditions and the fact that they're wild fish. They're not domesticated fish. So you know, we are aware of the fishing aspect of it and the angling opportunities, and we're going to do the best that we can to replace that. The lake trout aren't going anywhere. As soon as those Lahantans squeeze out of the Keys, they're going to be targets to be eaten, and we know that. But hopefully some stick around long enough that people can catch them. And eat them, yes. Yeah. So,
Eat the bluegill.
right.
Great. Thanks, Ed. Very valuable discussion, and I think it really highlights the point that it's just a careful balance of, you know, all the different interests, recreation, preserving native species within the Tahoe Basin. So it's not an easy one to answer, and this is the appropriate venue to have those discussions. So we hope you guys keep showing up and keep asking those questions and making those comments. Thanks for the response there, Jay. We have time for, looks like, one more question or comment.
I may take a quick second because I neglected in my presentation to acknowledge the work of the Tahoe RCD in actually implementing the watercraft inspection program. And Chris and Janelle as our leads, and Cole as our lead coordinator last year, and as well the role that our public and private partners play in the inspection program. We could not implement the program, and a lot of the changes that we're going to this season, we talked about all the inspections taking place at the roadside stations. We could not do that without the support of our public and private partners, and they've been really integral in that. So,
Great, thanks, Ken. And I just want to take a moment to thank all of you for showing up today. Thanks for the great feedback. Thanks for all the experts in the room. So stick around and mingle with some of your cohorts and peers here. You may learn something new. I also wanted to say thanks to Nicole Cartwright for really doing the heavy lifting and getting all the speakers here and fitting everything in on time and execute to the T. So thanks for that. And we'll see you next fall. And remember, check TahoeRCP.org, and we'll be posting video proceedings and all those updates. There's a calendar link right off the homepage, and we'll be updating that calendar page with all the latest and greatest information. And stay tuned for the announcement on boat inspection final fees and those types of issues very shortly, within the month, we hope. So that's also the place to find out that information as well. Thanks for coming, guys, and have a great evening.